Now, most Canadians are not aware of that history. Most Israelis are not aware of the history of what the Palestinians have suffered. They don't know that in 1948 there were multiple massacres of large numbers of people by Israeli forces. They don't know the history, the subjective experience of the Palestinians. And in the absence of that knowledge, October 7th would just strike them as another horrific anti-Semitic event. I understand the desire for defense and certainly even the desire for revenge, but that's in the absence of knowing what the Palestinian experience has been. And the Western press, and as in all countries where the local population has been displaced, the majority of the population doesn't know the history.
So I want us to watch this Piers Morgan interview on his infamous platform, Piers Morgan Uncensored. He is talking today with a very important guest, Dr. Gabor Maté. So let's hear what the doctor had to say about the ongoing Israel war on Palestine. And remember, Dr. Gabor here is an Israelite. So I think his take on this whole conflict is something worth listening. And please do not forget to share your thoughts and opinion in the comment section below, because like always, we love hearing what you have to say. So let's carry on with the video.
You specialize throughout your career in trauma and helping people get through trauma. You've talked to many people who've been in extreme trauma. This is a very traumatic situation these last 2 months for people on both sides, for the people who were on the receiving end of this massacre on October the 7th. And we've just heard firsthand what that has been like for the people in Israel who suffered that. But also, of course, what's going on now in Gaza with many thousands of innocent people being killed with Israel's military response, including thousands of children. What is your overall assessment of where this war is now heading?
For that, you need some historical context. Now, look, I used to be a Zionist. As you mentioned, I'm a Holocaust survivor. Zionism was very important for me as a salvation of the Jewish people, until I found out that the state was founded based on the extirpation, the expulsion, and multiple massacres of the local population. And that's not historically controversial. So I'm taking a longer view of this. And I'm saying that the present situation cannot be understood without looking at the historical context, and nor can we move forward if the present occupation and the suppression of the Palestinians continue. So Sharon, your previous guest, talked about the fragile coexistence. There was no coexistence. There was oppression, periodic massacres, land occupation in the West Bank, the continuous expulsion of the population from their homes. I've visited the occupied territories 3 times now. The first time, back during the first Intifada, Piers, I cried every day for 2 weeks at what I saw. So this cannot go on. And I saw the news about the Elgin marbles being returned and how you changed your mind about that. Well, how about returning the land that's been stolen from the Palestinians? I'm not talking about the state of Israel. I'm not talking about 1948. I'm talking about since 67 and what's going on right now. So there's got to be some stop to what's going on, and that's how I understand it.
Dr. Gabor made a very compelling argument here. And that is why I love watching Piers' interview, because some of the guests are so knowledgeable about the subject in such a way that when they say something, you honestly and sincerely believe them. They know exactly what they are talking about. If Israel was ever honest with themselves, they will realize that what they've done so far to the Palestinians is so unfair. It's so unfair. And they will always claim that they want to protect themselves. They want to secure themselves. They think that if they didn't do what they've done so far, their lives will be in danger. Their existence is in danger. So according to them, it's a matter of life or death. But it doesn't have to be like that. It doesn't have to be like that. It doesn't have to be like that. There are other options that could be explored. But somehow, the Israeli authorities have decided that a military one is the best. A military solution to them is the best. But ask yourself this. If that were to be the case, if the only solution to this problem was a military one, won't that goal be achieved already? Would Israel or would the people in Israel still be feeling insecure as they are feeling now? Would 7th of October had ever happened if and only if the solution was a military one? Remember, Gaza was under siege for many years. In fact, Gaza was someplace they call an open-air prison. Everyone knew it. Everyone knew it. The Gazians were given just so much so they didn't starve to death. And not too much so that they can just feel comfortable. No, not too much for them to feel comfortable, and not too little for them to starve to death. Just barely survival was given to them. And Israel went on with this in the pretext that Hamas was the main problem in Gaza. That Hamas was the entity that couldn't let Gazians thrive and be prosperous. That if only they did not have an entity like Hamas, Gaza would be the Singapore of the Middle East. That Gaza would be a thriving place, and all the Gazians would be so happy and so prosperous, and they would have whatever they desire. And after saying all this, then you put the question to them again. So, if Hamas is or was the main problem in Gaza, and Hamas was the reason why Gaza stayed the way it is or it was before you guys bombed everything to the ground, what about West Bank? What about all the illegal settlements? What about all the fencing? What about all the surveillance cameras? What is with all the data collecting on Palestinians? What about all those things? If you guys are telling us that Hamas is the main problem in Gaza, what about West Bank? How come the Palestinians in the West Bank are still living the way they are living? How come they are being subjected into living that way? How come you guys are practicing an apartheid state in the West Bank? Tell us. And they will say, well, because we need to protect ourselves, because if we don't do that, the Muslims will kill us. The Muslims don't have any love for us. That's what they will say. Do you think they will ever like you if you treated them the way you've treated them? How do you think they will like you when you've done what you've done to them? How do you expect them to like you? Are you going to hypnotize them to liking you after all you've done to them? No, they won't like you. It's but normal. You should have known this from the very beginning, that pushing them to that level will only bring more resentment towards you. You should have known this. I always make example with Africa because I find a kind of similarity between what Israel is doing in Gaza, or what Israel has been doing to the Palestinian as a whole, and the kind of thing we've suffered in Africa in the hands of the French. They will say Africa or French-speaking African countries are independent and they are thriving and they are struggling to survive. And they have leaders who are democratically elected. That's what they will say. They will never tell you how much money they collect from us every year. They will never tell you how much of our foreign reserves we are being forced into depositing. They will not tell you that even though France doesn't use the CFA, we use it. And the CFA is printed by France. So we need to pay for the printing, for the transportation, and also taxes for using their printed note. They won't say all this. Or they won't mention that French-speaking African countries, those in West Africa and Central Africa, give first right to refusal to France and French companies before any other country or company. They will never tell you that. So that's why I find a lot of similarity between what is going on in Gaza and what is going on in French-speaking countries in Africa. But to you guys out there, what's your take on this Piers Morgan interview? And what's your take on what Dr. Gabor Maté said? Please share that with us in the comment section below, because like always, we love hearing what you have to say. Please don't forget to like this video, share this video, subscribe to this channel because that helps us a lot and we shall forever be grateful to you. So thank you very much for doing just that. And like always, see you in the next one.